Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Carter, and I'm 15 years old. Standing here in front of all of you, NASA officials, engineers, cadets, and future leaders, it feels surreal. A year ago, I was just a kid on a plane, sketching cockpit layouts in my notebook, dreaming of one day seeing the inside of a real 737. I never imagined I'd be sitting in the captain's seat, landing one, or standing here today, speaking to you as part of the next-gen aerospace leadership program. But life, like flying, doesn't always follow the plan you expect. Sometimes, it throws you into the pilot's seat at 35,000 feet with no warning, and you have to decide if freeze or fly. Today, I'm going to share my story, not just the story of landing Flight 288, but what it taught me about bravery, instinct, and choosing to act when everything feels impossible. I want to take you through that day, the lessons I've learned since, and why I believe every one of you in this room has the potential to take control, not just of a plane, but of your own future. This isn't about being a hero. It's about being ready when the moment calls. Let's go back to that flight. I was 14, sitting in seat 3A, my forehead against the window, watching the Rocky Mountains slide by below. I was flying from Denver to Anchorage to spend time with my dad after my parents' divorce. It wasn't a happy trip. I felt like my world was falling apart, and I was just trying to hold on. My escape was my sketchbook where I drew the cockpit of a Boeing 737, memorizing every gauge, every lever, from aviation documentaries and flight sim apps. I wasn't a pilot. I was just a kid who loved planes. Then, everything changed. The plane jolted, oxygen masks dropped, and both pilots passed out from a pressurization failure. The cabin was chaos, passengers panicking, some unconscious. My dad slumped against me. I remember my heart pounding, my hands shaking, but also this strange clarity. I'd spent hours on flight simulators, studying aviation manuals, listening to my grandfather's stories about flying. I wasn't trained, but I wasn't clueless either. When the flight attendant said the pilots were down, I stood up and said, "Let me in the cockpit." I'll never forget stepping over that metal threshold. The pilots were slumped over, the alarms were blaring, and the controls were blinking like they were screaming for someone to take charge. I sat in the captain's seat, strapped in, and called out, "Mayday, this is Flight 288. The pilots are unconscious. I'm 14 years old. I need help." That moment wasn't about being brave. It was about doing what needed to be done. For the next hour, I worked with Captain Jose Martinez, a retired pilot, and Ray, the air traffic controller from Anchorage. They guided me through every step: autopilot adjustments, flap settings, descent protocols. The plane was shaking, the screens flickered, and I was terrified. But I kept my hands on the yoke, my eyes on the instruments, and my mind focused. Martinez told me, "The plane wants to fly. It just needs guidance." Those words stuck with me. They weren't just about the 737, they were about life. The hardest part wasn't the technical stuff. I knew the layout, the gauges, the procedures from my sims. The hardest part was the weight of knowing 211 lives were depending on me. Passengers were sobbing, praying, passing out. The flight attendants were doing their best to keep everyone calm, and I was just a kid, barely tall enough to reach the pedals. But I kept going. I had to. There was no one else. When we finally broke through the clouds and I saw the runway, it looked so small, like a ribbon in the snow. Martinez's voice was steady. "Glide it down the slope. Don't fight her." I adjusted the flaps, lowered the gear, and corrected for crosswinds. At 30 feet 2010, I pulled back gently and the wheels touched down. A jolt, a bounce, then a screech. We were down. The plane stopped, and the cabin erupted in cheers and sobs. I just sat there, staring at the dashboard, unable to believe I'd done it. That day taught me lessons I carry every day. First, bravery isn't about feeling fearless. It's about acting despite the fear. My hands were shaking the whole time, but I didn't let go of the yoke. Second, preparation matters. I wasn't a pilot, but all those hours on flight sims, all those nights reading my grandfather's aviation textbook gave me just enough to work with. You don't have to know everything, but you have to know enough to start. Third, you're never alone. Martinez, Ray, the flight attendants, even the passengers praying behind me, they were all part of that landing. No one succeeds in a vacuum. Even when you're in the pilot's seat, there's a team behind you, trusting you, supporting you. And finally, trust your instincts. My gut told me I could do it, even when my brain screamed I couldn't. Sometimes, your instincts are the only compass you have. The aftermath was overwhelming. Headlines called me the Mayday Miracle, the teenage pilot. NASA invited me to Houston. The FAA cleared me, confirming the pressurization failure caused the pilot's hypoxia. I met President Hastings, who said, "Courage has no age." But I didn't feel like a hero. I had nightmares, alarms, spinning cockpits, endless descents. My parents, who hadn't spoken in months, started talking again, not because they were fixed, but because they saw what I'd done. Healing, I learned, is messy, but it starts with a single step. NASA's next-gen program changed everything. I met other teens, brilliant, driven kids who reminded me I wasn't alone in my passion. They gave me a chance to train, to fly a Cessna 172 with Martinez, to feel the sky not as a crisis but as a gift. They gave me a platform to inspire others, to visit schools and show kids, especially girls and minorities, that aviation isn't just for the usual suspects. It's for anyone who dares to try. Now, let's talk about you. You're in this room because you're the next generation of aerospace leaders. You might not land a 737 tomorrow, but you're here because you have the potential to command, to innovate, to push boundaries. Maybe you're like I was, a kid with a dream, a notebook, and no idea where it'll lead. Or maybe you're already training, logging hours, studying systems. Wherever you are, here's what I want you to know. 1. Every moment counts. My moment came at 35,000 feet. Yours might come in a lab, a simulator, or a classroom. Be ready to seize it. 2. Failure is part of flying. I've crashed in simulators dozens of times. Each crash taught me something. Don't fear mistakes. Learn from them. 3. Find your team. No pilot flies alone. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, challenge you, and believe in you. 4. Choose to act. Bravery isn't loud. It's the quiet voice that says, "Do it anyway." When your moment comes, choose to step up. I'm not here to tell you I'm special. I'm here because I was in the right place, with just enough knowledge, and I chose not to back down. You don't need to be the smartest or the strongest. You just need to be willing to try. Today, I'm training to be a pilot, not just to survive, but to command. I'm learning to fly for the love of it, to inspire others, and maybe one day to reach the stars. This program, this moment, is your runway. The sky is clear, but it's up to you to take off. Trust your training, your instincts, and your team. You're not just the future of aerospace. You're the ones who will redefine it. So, let's fly. Thank you. Q&A's optional. If there's time, I'd love to hear from you. What's your dream in aerospace? What's the one thing holding you back? And how can we work through it together? Let's make this a conversation, not just a speech.